Welcome back. It's Tuesday again. We're going to be talking a bit about Algeria today, and you'll have to forgive me. I'm going to keep looking at my notes. It's been a long day and I don't have it all memorized yet. Algeria is one of the largest countries in the world. It is actually the 10th largest country in the world. It is the largest country in Africa. For those of you in the US, it's about 3.5 times the size of Texas. Algeria is right here. Takes up this space here in northern Africa. It has a coastline along the Mediterranean Sea. Its coast runs 998 kilometers, which is equivalent to 620 miles right along the coast there. It is officially the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria. It is 2,381,741 square kilometers, which is 919,595 square miles. The population as of July 2013 is estimated at just over 38 million people. Its time is the Coordinated Universal Time. It's right at 0 there for those of you who follow along with that. It's equivalent to GMT by just a few fractions of a second. I'll still be going with UTC, but it's not that much different. That's all it means. Right here where I'm right there. It is about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. UTC is 6 hours different, so here in Algiers, the capital of Algeria, it is about 8 p.m. We're going to be 6 hours off here. You can see we've got this time zone right there. I am all the way over here down in that time zone. In Algeria, there are 2 big mountain ranges. I didn't know that. I didn't really know much of anything about Algeria other than some of the current events, but this is not about current events. You want to know that, go troll the news sites. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the geography, a little bit about the history. There are no major lakes, no forests, but we've got a mountain range right here. These are the Telian mountain range. They give a narrow strip between the coast of the Mediterranean Sea and the rest of the country. That coastal plain is very narrow. It's fertile, got a moderate climate, good for agriculture. 91% of the population lives in that little narrow strip. The other 85% of the country is empty. Not empty. That's where just the other 9% of the population lives. Right down here is a raised plain. It's a rocky plateau about 3,000 feet above sea level. It's mostly desert. There's some scattered clumps of trees, some brush, some pasture land, and then just south of that, we're looking down right in this area, we have the Saharan mountain range. That's another good high mountain range, and then south of that you have another strip of land which is almost entirely desert. It's taken up by oil fields, just like the plateau, and not a lot of good farmland, so not a lot of people live down there. The country has some natural resources that we'll talk about. There's petroleum, natural gas, iron ore, phosphates, uranium, lead, and zinc. The petroleum has large petroleum fields through the southern part of the country that lots of other countries have mines set up at. And that's where some of our other countries get their petroleum from. It's here, some of the other areas through this region. The climate varies pretty widely by area and by season. The northern summers are hot and dry with mild, wet winters. The winter rains begin around October in the northern area. The high plateau, which is that southern middle section, has a drier climate with cold winters and hot summers. And then dust and sandstorms frequently occur between February and May. The primary language spoken is Arabic. That's been the official language since 1980. Otherwise, it was a combination of Arabic, several Berber dialects, and French. Berber dialects are still spoken, so is French, but when it became the national language in 1980, there was a lot of unrest, a lot of riots, and we don't need to go too much into that. Archaeologists have indicated that early hominids resided in Algeria somewhere around 500,000 to 700,000 years ago, so we've been there quite a while. Around the first millennium BCE, which is before Common Era, that's the equivalent of BC, which a lot of people think means before Christ. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use the scientific before Common Era and Common Era. BCE, first millennium, Phoenician traders settled on the Mediterranean coast. Algeria then became a Roman colony around 145 BCE. In 440 CE, it was conquered by Vandals, and then around 200 years later, invaded by Arabs. Vandals are not the people with spray paint and graffiti artists. It's actually someone else. Go look it up. In 1536, it fell under the control of the Ottoman Empire and succeeded to serve for 3 centuries as the headquarters for the Barbary pirates. In 1830, the French occupied Algeria, ostensibly to combat piracy and control that aspect of it. Who knows what they really wanted. They made it part of France in 1848. A movement toward Algerian independence led to some uprisings in the mid-1950s, which developed into a full-scale war, culminating in Algeria gaining its independence in 1962. The first president, then in 1962, got to be in charge for 3 years before he was overthrown by a military coup in 1965 in an effort to restore some economic stability. In 1980 was when the country's language was made Arabic, and that was what led to some of the riots I mentioned earlier. Then after that, Algeria entered a major recession after the oil prices plummeted also in the 1980s. In 1991, Algeria's first ever parliamentary elections were held. Not liking the results, the army canceled the general election and sent the country into a civil war, which there's still a lot of violence over there. There's still a lot of different factions vying for power. There is a president. He was elected current president was elected in 1999. He has been re-elected successfully in 2 more terms. Their presidents serve 5 terms. In 2008, I believe, they got rid of the term limits so that he could run for a 3rd term. And I believe he'll be up for re-election April of 2014 now. He has his primary adversary right now is the military. They haven't been able to agree on a lot of things, and in order to get most of what he would like to have done, he needs military support. That's what's leading to a lot of the unrest over there right now. Algeria is still in the headlines, but maybe you know a little more about where it is, where it'll go. You can go ahead, look it up, keep current on it. Lots of current events. It was pretty sad reading a lot of the news. I find it distressing. But I'll include some links to where I got my information down here at the bottom, because there is so much more cool stuff to know about Algeria that I just couldn't possibly fit into this, and I think it would be so much fun to learn more about. Next week we will talk about Angola, and hopefully we'll see you again.